Alright, so big shoutouts going over to Troy Sander, who in the most recent video about Vasily Podkolzin made a comment that I ended up responding to. He says, "When will there be a Nils Höglander update?" The guy has 9 points in 14 games in the SHL. Now, my reply to the comment goes over it, but I'll say it again here. Nils Höglander has not been in the news for the past, 2 weeks, because the Rögle BK actually stopped playing games. There was an outbreak on the team, which caused a whole bunch of games to get cancelled, and as a result, they're going to be playing just incredible amounts of hockey over the next few days. But yesterday, they ended up playing a game against the HV71 Hockey Club, wherein they won 4-0. It was their first game in about 2 weeks or so, because, you kind of gotta quarantine, socially distance for 2 weeks to let the virus die down. So yeah, they took a break, but they came back strong with a 4-0 win, where Nils Höglander came out here, got himself a goal on the power play towards the end, and he actually had a very impressive showing. So the goal that he scored, a very nice one indeed. The puck was won back over to the blue line in the offensive zone, lobbed to the goal, and Nils Höglander right in front got a really nice tip on there. He turns around, does the celly, showcases to the camera and the teammates, "Yep, that's me who scored," and then he goes over to the bench. It's actually kind of funny because that's not the only Nils Höglander talking point about this game that people were taking a look at, because before this goal, oh man, he did himself a lacrosse goal, or at least he tried, because he was behind the net. He kind of swooped it over in the very swift, elegant style that Nils Höglander has perfected when it comes to trying out this Zorro goal. He whips it to the goal in front, but the goaltender sticks out the blocker and swats it away. You could tell he was kind of ready for it. He was kind of looking, and then Nils Höglander took some time before picking it up and wrapping it in front. The goaltender fully expected it. Fun fact, this goaltender was Hugo Alnefelt, a guy who was drafted by the Tampa Bay Lightning and who actually happened to be taken with a Vancouver Canucks pick. This was the other third-round pick in the JT Miller trade. Surprise, surprise. So definitely some older pieces of Vancouver Canucks trivia coming out to play and collide on this performance here. But Nils Höglander, oh man, beautiful showcase right there. I've said this a few times over the span of this YouTube channel, but Nils Höglander, out of everybody who does the Michigan, the lacrosse goal, the Zorro goal, whatever you want to call it, Höglander does it best. And I say that with 110% certainty. Svechnikov, yes, he's awesome for doing it first in the NHL, but he kind of slowly picks it up, and he kind of holds it, like he's just kind of standing there with the puck almost settled onto his stick before he just kind of throws it out in front. Forsberg did it nicely as he was skating, and then he put it onto the backhand, the underside, and then flipped it up. But Nils Höglander, when this guy does it, ooh, it's a nice, swift, circular motion. It's like a ninja taking out his sword and slicing it in one motion to get the guy out in front. There's a reason why it's called the Zorro goal, and Höglander does it best, in my opinion, because it's one fluid motion. And hey, that's just one part of his overall repertoire. We've spoken about this a ton, especially in the 1 year later video talking about Höglander, but this guy at 5'9", 190 pounds is built like a fire hydrant. He is low to the ground, but the guy is stable on his feet. He's an athletic freak. He works out a ton. He knows how to do the unicycle, which is kind of funny because our Swedish prospects that know how to do that for some reason do very well in the NHL, like Elias Pettersson. But Höglander is indeed coming over here. He played a total of 16 minutes in the game against HV71, putting his total up to 10 points in 15 games played. 3 goals, 7 assists. It's interesting because Nils Höglander had a very down period where he went 6 games without getting a single point. That was his whole down streak, despite the fact that he was actually performing quite well. It was just he wasn't getting the points. He was snake-bitten. He wasn't really getting on there. But after breaking through that slump, he is over here with a point-per-game performance, just under a point per game, in the most recent 7 games played, with that 2-week break included, by the way. So for an added perspective, let's go over onto Chris Faber. I talk about him all the time, a buddy of mine. He runs the Canucks Conversation podcast with David Quadrelli, and he also writes for Canucks Army. He wrote a little bit about Nils Höglander and the game that happened yesterday. Take a look at this paragraph here towards the end. Because of their postponed games, Rögle is going to be a very busy hockey team this week. They're scheduled to play 4 games in the next 6 days, which will give Höglander a ton of reps before he comes over to Vancouver after his loan expires on December 12th. The latest I'm hearing is that there are no plans for Höglander to leave early, and that he and his agent are just focused on his SHL action right now. With the wonky schedule and pay cuts to players and staff, there seems to be an opening for Höglander to potentially come to Vancouver early. And this is indeed a big deal. Höglander is on loan to the Rögle BK, and he does have a contract. We have seen some other NHL rookies that are in the SHL, some guys that are drafted by NHL clubs who are not actually allowed to leave the league because of their contextual circumstances. The biggest names come to mind are Alexander Holtz and Lucas Raymond, New Jersey Devils draft pick, Detroit Red Wings draft pick. We've spoken about this before, but they're actually not allowed to leave the SHL into the NHL while the SHL season is still going on. But for Höglander, because his circumstances are different, he's by no means a rookie, plus he already signed his contract earlier on before the season started. He's a guy who does have that option, but according to Faber, it seems like he's going to stay there for a while. As for the Vancouver front, though, he's actually one of the more interesting names that enters the conversation when it comes to potential Vancouver Canucks draftees that could make the team sooner or later, mostly because for the past, 4 years, Höglander has been playing in men's hockey. Go back over to 2016-17, he suited up for the AIK and the Allsvenskan. That's a pro hockey league. And at 16, 17 years old, he was already there. He has a ton of pro experience, he knows what it means to stay in a lineup, he knows how to stay in a lineup, and despite the fact that he is only 5'9", 190 pounds, he still has a very projectable skill set. Work ethic, spice, two-way play, plus the skills that he's got on top of that. He definitely does boast a very interesting skill set that a lot of Vancouver Canucks fans are looking towards seeing. So whether or not that continues into the next few years or just next year in general, we still have a very good prospect in our hands that is indeed showing himself off in the best way possible, just under a point per game in the SHL, a huge improvement. Take a look at what he did last year, 16 points, 41 games. This season, 10 points in 15 games. Plus that 6-game goalless, pointless streak that he had. If you take that away, he's over a point per game. But obviously, we know seasons don't work like that, where you can just remove parts of the seasons because you want to. But at the end of the day, when he's on, he is on. And we'll see him be on for the next few days. Let's go over onto the Rögle BK and their overall schedule. Because as Chris Faber noted, yes, it indeed is going to be pretty stacked. Once you have a team that ends up canceling a whole bunch of games, they do need to play a boatload to remake those. So, tomorrow, December 10th against the Linkoping hockey team, on the 5th against Frölunda, on the 6th against Växjö, and on the 8th against Luleå. Whole bunch of games going on there. If we check out the next matches, the 10th against Skellefteå, and then the 12th, then the 15th, the 17th, it kind of eases out after that. But Höglander's loan does indeed end on December 12th, so we'll see what happens afterwards. But for the meantime, he's back over there, Rögle. They're back on. We'll see what happens next. So talk to me in the comments what you think about Nils Höglander. Hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.